Welcome to episode number 334 of the Marine Layer podcast, live from the winter meetings in Orlando. We have a Harry Ford trade to discuss. We have some rumors to talk about that we were discussing earlier today, recording this, Lyle. Man, it's late, but we have plenty to get into here at the winter meetings in Orlando. It is buzzing. A lot to talk about.
Reminder to you guys, just stay on top of all of our stuff. Just make sure you're downloading these episodes. If you're listening, go rate and review 5 stars. It really helps. Same thing on YouTube. Just go like, comment, and go hit subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. Then you can check us out on our website, marinelayerpod.com, merch, Patreon. It's all there. And then you can follow us across social media at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling. And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording here on now Monday morning, December 8th, 12:15 a.m. from the winter meetings from the Signia here. Like, we're in Disney World right now. How does it feel to be back at the winter meetings, Lyle?
I don't see a lot of Epcot. I don't see a lot of drinks around.
Well, Epcot's right behind us. Like, it's literally across the street. You had to drive through the Disney World gates to get here. In fact, there was one Disney World gate in front of where we're staying, which is not in this building. We did have to drive through a big gate to get here. Maybe Mickey Mouse will show up tomorrow.
Great. Is the Dodgers 2020 roster showing up with them?
Oh, that's a great question. But there's been plenty of people around. We see all the big news hitters. Haven't seen Jeff Passan. Heard Jeff Passan is here. John Heyman, Ken Rosenthal. We're sitting here essentially between, there's 2 hotels, the Signia and then the Waldorf Astoria is to our right, the Signia is to our left. We're just watching, like, people walking by. And this is better than our setup, I think, in Dallas last year when we were sitting and recording, because that was just at one hotel. This one is between 2, and I'm getting the vibe, Lyle, sitting here, that the players and the team executives are in the Waldorf Astoria.
I don't think that many players are here. I think it's a lot of executives that are that way.
The team employees are over in the Waldorf Astoria. The media members seem to be hanging out in the Signia.
Right.
So we'll split. We'll divide and conquer and try and split our time between the two sides to hear and learn as much as possible. We did spend a lot of time talking to media members today, though.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube and you can see us, media that way, executives that way. So we're sitting right in the middle. We'll see who walks by as we're recording. I mean, people are walking by. It's kind of the fun of recording these pods at the winter meetings is you get to do some people watching, and when you're under the same building as the whole baseball world for the next 3 days, I mean, it's a chance to talk to a lot of people. I think we're going to do that. I think we've already done that to some extent. And
if we had started recording maybe 30 minutes earlier, we tried. We walked over here about 90 minutes ago to set up to start recording, but one way or another, it took us almost an hour and a half to get going. But Jordan Schusterman of Cespedes Family Barbecue walked by us and then had the intention of coming back. We're going to hit record, and he was going to stop by, and he was going to be here live on the podcast. But we missed our chance, and he walks by again and goes, your loss.
Yeah. Well, maybe for Wednesday's pod, I'll come back. We'll plant the tea leaves for Wednesday's pod, which we'll probably record on Tuesday.
If we can get a Mariners guest to come by here and sit down with us and chat, we will make it happen. Yeah. We can definitely make it happen.
They want to come sit down on the fly, we'll adapt on the fly. It's that easy.
Well, thankfully, Jerry DePoto, Justin Hollander, who are here somewhere in this vast, expansive hotel situation, stirred up a little bit. Pre-winter meeting, stirred up some trades. We have a Harry Ford trade to talk about here. Harry Ford gets traded to the Washington Nationals alongside pitching prospect Isaac Lyon for a reliever. What do we think?
There's 2 parts to this, so I'm going to let you decide. Do we want to break down the trade first, or do we want to react to the fan reaction first?
Let's break down the trade first, and then we can, because I feel like there's just more branches of the discourse around Harry Ford that we can talk about after that. We've talked about in tiny spurts when there's been suggestions made or mailbag questions asked about Harry, but now we actually have something to talk about. So let's talk about the trade itself first. Number 1, the player they're getting back in Jose Ferrer has a lot to like. He's young. He throws really hard. He's a lefty, and he does some things really well. The Mariners like looking at elite traits in relievers, and they now have one. And now they have this pairing in their bullpen. If you want a summary of like what Jose Ferrer is really good at, by the way, he generates a ton of ground balls. He's among the best in all of baseball at getting ground balls, and he does not does not walk guys, right? So he's going to throw a lot of strikes. He's not going to get hit very hard, and there's going to be a ton of contact on the ground for Mariners infielders to scoop up. And it's a pretty successful strategy. I mean, Zach Britton became one of the best relievers of all time by employing that same strategy. This guy throws about that hard, too. It's very exciting. Speaking of the Cespedes family barbecue guys, both of them walked up to us today and said, that trade is fucking awesome.
Yeah. They said, I love this trade. Both of them, totally separate. Like, we talked to Jake and Jordan both separately today, and they said, love that deal. And it's not about loving the deal for the Nationals. They said, no, I love the deal for the Mariners. This is why it's important, I think, for a lot of people to look more into things that are not just ERA when you acquire a reliever specifically. Really any player, because there's so much more to tell about the story of a player in 2025 than just their batting average, their ERA. There's so much more that goes into it. And Ferrer, especially with relievers like this, that encompasses that philosophy, where when you look into what he does and who he is as a pitcher, the Mariners are acquiring him because they think there's a very specific role that he can fill on this team. And the role is a chance to be a really good reliever. Like, I think people are almost sleeping on how good this guy can be. And people we've talked to around here at the meeting seem to think the same thing, that almost he's not being appreciated enough.
No, he's not. And when you're on a team like the Nationals and you're stashed away in their bullpen and you're not racking up saves, it's fair to say it's harder to get recognized. It's the same reason why non-closer relievers rarely ever get selected to the All-Star game, because it's hard when you're in a group of 8 others of the exact sort of same position on your team and you're not lighting up something. You're not striking out the most batters in baseball. You're not recording the most saves. You're not having the most appearances without allowing a run. It's really hard to get recognized. And Jose Ferrer he's not going to strike a ton of guys out. He doesn't get saves, right? And he plays on a bad team. How are you going to get recognized that way? That's where, the extra level of scouting comes in for the Mariners to identify someone who they think is going to fit in their bullpen. Off the thing I was talking about earlier, the Mariners now have 2 lefties with 2 drastically different profiles in their bullpen. They have a high leverage, high volume lefty who's going to strike a bunch of guys out that you can use to go after, say, a Yordan Alvarez or a Kerry Carpenter. Or you have a guy that feels like he could be balanced against both sides, but most importantly, he's going to go out there and he's going to get a ground ball when you need it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the Mariners just wanted the ability to deploy 2 lefties that they really like in their pen. Now they're going to be able to do that. And by the way, if Ferrer's not a leverage guy when he first opens up on the roster, that doesn't mean he can't turn into one. This is a guy with 4 years of control, and he has big stuff, doesn't walk people, and gets ground balls. I'm not saying pencil him in to be a leverage reliever, but he's got the tools to have the upside to do so.
He's 25 years old.
You throw hard, you get ground balls, you don't walk people. Like, that's the formula right there.
There's so much room for this guy to grow. And the most important thing is he has elite traits. You can always work with elite traits, and the Mariners have been able to find elite traits and utilize them great in their bullpen. The other thing to come of this trade, while I still do think the Mariners should be targeting an upper echelon reliever for this next year, 2026, because there's a solid chance that Jose Ferrer is not that leverage guy this next year. And the Mariners need another leverage guy this next year. But it's not totally out of the cards when you have a guy who can throw 100, does throw lefty, and has a pitch that's among the best in baseball at any one of his position.
Sure. There's no doubt. Now, I think the flip side to this is I think some of the discourse around this, which is fair discourse, we can get into some of the other discourse in a few minutes, but I think some of the potential concern people had with this deal is how does this benefit the Mariners when you have a high ground ball pitcher that relies on getting weak contact when you have a middle infield that graded out extremely poorly in terms of outs above average and in terms of a lot of their overall defensive value? Totally fair, and we can get into that. And I think what that comes down to is, along with the addition of Ferrer, some of the things that the Mariners are going to need in 2026 includes a middle infield that is shored up defensively a little bit more. And we're not saying things are going to change in terms of the players that are playing there. This is more about they need Cole Young to take a jump defensively in 26. They could use a little more from J.P. Crawford defensively in 26. Could they see more of Colt Emerson at shortstop in 2026 if they really feel like his value and his defense plays better there in the long run, even if he starts out at third when he gets called up? So
and you're not going to have 4 months of Solano and Rowdy Tellez at first base or somebody else. You're going to have 162 games, hopefully, of Josh Naylor.
Right.
You just hope everyone's going to feel comfortable in that.
Which is great. But I think this is a lot about the middle infield, which for Jose Ferrer to be his best self, you do need a good defense.
So you're saying that the Mariners going out and acquiring Bo Bichette to play second base behind Jose Ferrer right now is not the best idea?
No, that won't help him. Now, it'll help because Bo Bichette's going to mash, and he's going to be great offensively for whatever team signs him.
So instead of a 3-run lead he's pitching in, it could be a 5-run lead or a 6-run lead.
Yeah, because Bo Bichette, not a great defender. Again, Cole Young, he could play quality defense in the minor leagues. They just need a little more from him in year 2 at second base, which I think he can give them. Again, rookie years are a lot of, not trial and error, but obviously just development.
And we saw that. I mean, he got a development month at the end of the season. However, I do think that mindset, though, of thinking, why are you acquiring a sinker baller when your infield defense isn't great? Well, I mean, we're talking about someone who's going to throw 3 to 4 innings a week. I don't think you make a decision. You make this a blanket statement like that based off of someone who's going to throw such a small percentage of your innings. It's different than, say, the Mariners deciding that we're going to build our entire team around sinker ball ground ballers, which they do have plenty. Brian Woo's a sinker baller. George Kirby's a sinker baller. Bryce Miller throws a sinker ball, right? Like, all of these guys can be sinker ballers or are sinker ballers, but the Mariners aren't dead set on one sort of ground ball philosophy. What they like is utilizing guys' strengths.
Sure.
And that just happens to be those guys' strengths. That does not mean that, Jose Ferrer the trading for Jose Ferrer is a bad trade because you have J.P. Crawford as your shortstop. No.
No, and those situations will only pop up occasionally. It's not like every ball he puts into play and every pitch he throws is going to turn into a ground ball at the 6 hole where JP has to range to his left. Again, especially when he's throwing 3 to 4 innings a week, it'll be sporadically. It'll be occasionally where you've got to buy process and you've got to buy tools to eventually get the ultimate results that you want. And what you're getting in Jose Ferrer is, again, a guy who's got a chance to be really good.
This is a guy right now, I think, for 2026 slots in the Edward Bizzardo equivalent role in your bullpen. Maybe one step below it. Maybe Bizzardo still is that if you want to designate an inning, a 7th inning guy, because even though he had his moment in Game 7, which was not great, it was the worst pitch in the history of the franchise.
He never should have been in there.
He never should have been in there, you're right, but he did throw the pitch that ultimately led to that. He has still probably earned his spot for next season, and for over the course of the season might earn that spot away from him. But for now, I think this is going to be a guy, the first lefty out of the bullpen, what Caleb Ferguson was supposed to be this past season, but ended up not being.
Yeah. I think people should be excited about Jose Ferrer. That's what this boils down to. Don't just look at the ERA. It does not even close to tell the full story. Go look at some of the other things that involve Jose Ferrer's entire profile, and I think you can come away with the conclusion of, oh, this guy has a chance to be really good. And again, just talking to people here at the winter meetings, like the early reports on Jose Ferrer seem to be people really like the guy.
What are we going to do about this Harry Ford discourse now?
So let's say this. Before we even get into that, let's first say that if the Mariners had the opportunity to trade Harry Ford for, let's say, Brendan Donovan, right? We're going to get to him in a few minutes. If they had a chance to really do that 1-for-1 and his value was still truly that high, I think the Mariners are doing that in a heartbeat, you guys. If they had a chance to trade for an everyday infielder that is a 2.5 to 3 win player on the regular for a backup catcher, they would have done it in a heartbeat. Because a lot of the discourse has to do with, yeah, they didn't get enough back for Harry Ford. I think this is what the industry says he's worth. If the Mariners aren't getting more back than this for Harry Ford, there's probably a reason.
Harry Ford did improve his value this year. Don't get us wrong. Like, he was Arm Layton, who we'll see here at the winter meetings, and we'll chat about this straight. He was in the camp of he was not quite as on board with this trade because he was buying a little bit more into Harry Ford as a prospect. He said, look, Harry's hitting the ball better this year. He's making more contact, and the defense improved, which are all things he needed to do. Even with all of that, I just don't think the value was there for Harry Ford in a number of ways. Let's start with way number one, that the value was not there. Harry Ford to the Mariners is not as valuable as Harry Ford to another team. It is a math equation. You have one starting catching position and you have one backup catching position. The starting catcher, in this case, Cal Raleigh, is going to play 90 to 95% of the games. So where does that leave Harry Ford? Even if his Harry Ford turns out to win National League Rookie of the Year this year, how are you going to be able to find playing time for Harry Ford on this roster, which needs more proven players to take the at-bats that people want Harry Ford to take, whether that be the backup catcher at-bats would have been fine for him. The people suggesting he DH, no, I'd rather them sign Jorge Polanco and have him DH as opposed to Harry Ford, who has 8 plate appearances at the big league level. We're past the development stage of this Mariners process. What they're in right now is a contention window. And Harry Ford, you could not walk into opening day having him being your DH. So even with Harry Ford being as good as possible in this trade, the value, Lyle, does not line up for the Mariners. It could not happen here.
I think in a lot of ways, the Harry Ford future ended in Seattle the minute Cal Raleigh inked his name to that contract.
Facts.
That set him, that kept him a Mariner for the next 6 years. The minute Cal Raleigh put pen to paper on that deal, that was the end of the Harry Ford future in Seattle. The most he was ever going to be from that point forward was a backup catcher.
Mm-hmm. Now, another way to think about this when talking about Harry, it's why his value is where it is. Because there were a lot of comments that we got that were really shocked about this return for the Mariners and thought the Mariners were not getting enough in return.
Yeah, do we want to get into that for a second?
Let's just say there were some ideas thrown out there of what the Mariners should have gotten for Harry Ford. There's multiple comments that Harry Ford should have been a headliner for Tarek Skubal instead of Jose Ferrer.
Wow.
There was a comparison of this trade for the Mariners being the Clippers trading Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the Thunder, who just won MVP this past year.
Yeah,
what
like,
else?
Like there were real comments saying the Mariners just traded away a future MVP for a reliever, which, spoiler, I'm going to put a hot take here on this podcast. No. Harry Ford's not winning an MVP, and even to what TJ was possibly alluding to earlier, I don't think Harry Ford's winning National League Rookie of the Year this year.
It is unlikely. He could be he could be good, he could be valuable, but let's say on the Nationals he's worth 2 wins. He's not worth 2 wins to the Mariners.
No.
He can't play.
He will be playing maximum twice a week in Seattle. Again, when you have the best catcher on the planet playing every day, how is this guy getting his reps? Cal. Cal's the best catcher in the world. Yeah, that guy knows who's walking by. See, this is a great thing about recording at the Winter Meetings.
Oh, a lot of input.
A lot of input. Just people walking by. You people watch, you interact. It's fun. But yeah, Harry Ford just, again, when you have Cal on the roster, there was no way Harry Ford was going to put up a 2.5 win season. There was not enough volume.
No. On top of this, for Harry, there were some comments as well saying, okay, guys, what the Mariners might have done right now is they sold at Harry Ford when his value was not very high. Why wouldn't the Mariners sit on him for his value to come up? Let me ask you this. Was there potential for Harry Ford's value to come up if he stayed on the Mariners? I
don't know how he wasn't going to play.
The only place he could really play would be in Tacoma. How would his value go up if he was in Tacoma? I don't see a way that's possible. He could be the greatest AAA catcher of all time next year, hit like a 45 homer season. How's his value going to be high? He's not in the big leagues.
Right. There's just no way to maximize even higher value on this thing. There's just not.
And you can't. His value will not go up if you just sit him on the bench and make him the backup. Unless you are actually inserting him into DH, which I told you at the beginning is not an option. You cannot do that if you're trying to go win a World Series next year. His value will not go up. So it's unfortunate that this is the scenario for Harry Ford. If anybody else was the starting catcher for the Seattle Mariners, this would be a totally different discussion with Harry Ford. And the Mariners might not make Harry Ford available because solid young catching is hard to come by. It really is. But this is a scenario where there's no way to raise Harry Ford's trade value. You don't see a way for him to meaningfully contribute to this roster next year and anything beyond being a backup catcher. And I think fans overvalued what Harry Ford's trade value was because someone told us last year in the offseason, like I mentioned, like Arm said, he made big jumps this year, so this sentiment might have changed. there were people last offseason that said Harry Ford was not a top 100 prospect. If he's not a top 100 prospect, he cannot be a headliner. In fact, getting a reliever who throws 100 miles an hour from the left side and has an elite ground ball rate is an incredible return package if that's the case.
For sure. Again, Harry Ford's value has gone the wrong way the last year or so. Even with the improvements that he made, he just isn't valued the same way that he once was when he was drafted. There's still questions about his defense. Obviously, he hasn't played a ton of big league games despite being drafted in 21. He's a guy that still questions about the power, never learned another position. I just don't know what you were going to do with him, which is all the more reason why I can't understand for the life of me how we're getting comments from people saying this is like the Clippers trading SGA. We're getting comments saying this is the Adam Jones trade all over again for Eric Bedard.
Yeah.
We're getting people telling us that, again, if not Skubal, he should have been traded for Jose Ramirez. I don't know how to respond to that stuff, guys.
I don't either.
This is where I run into a wall. We try to have a conversation about it, but then we're getting DMs and comments saying, well, they just traded away an MVP.
Most of this is first round. It has to just be first round gloss and glitter on this for Harry Ford. Because if you look at his stats in the minor leagues, stats don't tell the whole story. There's the athletic part of it. There's his catching, his framing, which does not get measured in the minor leagues. But his stats were fine in the minors for the most part on his way up. They're not world-beating, dominating Julio Rodriguez level stats in the minors. Harry Ford was very good in Tacoma this year, very good. Unbelievable?
No.
Also, he had an unbelievable month, one unbelievable month that was really good, but the rest of it was it was fine. It was good.
Can I throw one more important piece into this puzzle here? We haven't talked about it on social media. I do want to hit it home here on the podcast. What this trade also signals is the Mariners really like Luke Stevenson, you guys. That means the Mariners probably think Luke Stevenson has a higher ceiling than Harry Ford does. I think there's a reason they drafted him last summer, and I think there's a reason they were okay with trading Harry Ford away. Now, Luke Stevenson's not going to be in the big leagues this year, but if you need another catcher down the line, clearly they value him higher. And by the way, in the little bit that he played Modesto this year, he was awesome.
And Cal's got 3-4 years probably of playing every day behind the plate. I'll say 3.
Because more than that, to be honest.
He could be, but everyone ages differently. But you could run into a situation where Salvador Perez still catches a bunch, even though he totally shouldn't because he's terrible at defense and his body is broken down. There's always scenarios like that. But let's say Pete Cal Raleigh will exist behind the plate for 3 more seasons.
Yeah.
That's probably the median one. At that point, Luke Stevenson would be pretty developed and ready, and that doesn't account for the fact the Mariners could draft another catcher. They could trade for another catcher. They could trade their prospects for somebody to go acquire. This doesn't take the Mariners out of the catching market. This just means the Mariners didn't like this specific catcher enough to put him on their roster for next year over a reliever like Jose Ferrer.
Yeah, exactly. It's about winning now in 2026, right? Jose Ferrer's probably got a better shot to help the Mariners win in 26 than Harry Ford does, especially because there is a path for Jose Ferrer to play and succeed. There is not a path for Harry Ford to play baseball games for the Mariners.
Yeah, we've been very consistent on now is the time to trade your prospects, and this is a trade where you're trading your prospects to get better. The Mariners still do need another leverage bullpen arm. I want to see an Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, Gabe Spire level reliever acquired by the team.
Now, it might be hard to get a Munoz level guy because that would involve signing Eddie or signing Robert Suarez, but go get another leverage arm. I mean, we talked about Devin Williams forever. We talked about Emilio Pagan. He signed a few days ago. But yeah, somebody else that can throw late in games.
And it could be at the point, Lyle, where they just do this by bulk, where they'll go out there and they'll acquire another very high upside young reliever from another team and hope that half or 2/3 of them hit like they did in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 when all of that stuff really works out for them. That might have to be the strategy. And they're on their way to doing that right now. But right as we sit here at the winter meetings and there's plenty of transactions to go down and there's plenty of conversations to be had, the goal should still be a top-tier reliever.
Yeah, for sure. And it could come at the deadline. I hope it comes earlier than that, and I hope they do it this offseason. But if they get to late July and they think they need another leverage arm, they could trade for it then. It's always another route. Again, I hope not. I'd like to see them get it done before opening day, but just something to think about.
So we're sitting here at the winter meetings right now, and we've gotten plenty of time to sit down and chat. We saw our friends at Bucko Banner on the Just Baseball Podcast Network. They're here. Cespedes Family Barbecue is here. A lot of the beat writers that we've talked to from different teams that have come through Seattle and that we've chatted with over the time. So we've here on day one. We arrived about 6:30 this afternoon to the hotel, and here we are recording 6 hours later. I've gotten plenty of conversation to be had. So within that time, what has stood out to you the most about what we've heard?
Yeah, just from people we've talked to and conversations that were had about guys that the Mariners could be interested in, right? Because this is a lot of what goes down at these winter meetings. A lot of transactions, or at least a lot of talk of transactions. And who's kind of in the Mariners circle right now? The big one's Ketel Marte. There's also been Brendan Donovan. We can start with Donovan, and then we can get a little more into Ketel. I would say the overall conclusion, or not conclusion, because that's not fair. Nothing's conclusive. What we've grasped so far on day one is these asking prices are high.
Really high. And Donovan is a really good baseball player. He's versatile. He gets on base, and he's very consistent. But the asking price for him is a starter to begin.
Right. At least that's what it is right now. Could it eventually come down after some negotiations when you get down the line? It's possible. But if you're the Cardinals and you want pitching and you need pitching, you've got the leverage in the Brendan Donovan trade because you don't have to trade him. He's controllable. So what are they asking for? Yeah, if it's the Mariners, from what we understand, they want a starter.
And the starter would be, I guess, in the words of what we heard, it doesn't need to be an ace. There would not be an ace starter, and the Mariners wouldn't trade an ace starter for Brendan Donovan, who, again, is a he's a good baseball player, but he's not someone that you'd have to trade Brian Wu for. You would have to trade Bryce Miller at this point.
Sure.
That would be the price.
It would be more of that line, right?
Miller and some auxiliary pieces to send over to the Cardinals. And the math on that, there's a lot of Mariners fans that would sit and think about this right now and instantly say no. And honestly, I can't blame them. Just start with the years of control. Donovan 2, Miller 4. And Miller has not totally been healthy, but he showed what he could be in 2024. Are you sure you want to not experience any more of that for Brendan Donovan, who you'd only get for half the amount of time?
Yeah, let's just say this. If that's the price, I'm saying no.
I'm saying no, too. And the Mariners would say no as well. There wouldn't be a scenario where they would say yes to that. What about George Kirby?
Still no. Because if you're going to trade Kirby, it's got to be for something more than that. Well, first off, I don't think they're very intent on trading any of their 4 homegrown starters to begin with. But if they were even going to consider it, I think it's got to be for a player that's better than Brendan Donovan, who, again, good baseball player. But I don't think the Mariners would trade one of their 4 homegrown starters for him.
And that's where we get into this conversation where I don't think we got a very clear answer on whether or not they would say yes to a prospect. A prospect would be possible. If the Mariners aren't willing to trade any of the 4 starters in the rotation for Brendan Donovan, then I would ask you, okay, Ryan Sloan for Brendan Donovan. And that's a really tough conversation to have because Ryan Sloan is arguably an untouchable prospect. He might be untouchable for you. I don't know if he's quite untouchable for me because if the Mariners trade for Ketel Marte, for example, I would be willing to have that conversation. But for Brendan Donovan, like you really are pushing him to win this year. Like you are. Like that's the kind of move. But man, Ryan Sloan's really good.
He would be untouchable to me. And honestly, I think he's untouchable to the Mariners. I can't know that for sure. But just the way he's talked about and how good he was in year 1 and the upside he has, he feels to me like somebody that the Mariners have no intention of trading away. And for somebody like Brendan Donovan, who, again, I don't want to call him a role player because he's obviously not a bench player, but he is not anchoring an offense. He will complement an offense. He's not anchoring it.
And he'd fit very well on this Mariners team.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, by the way, if the Mariners were to trade for Brendan Donovan, they could still trade for Donovan and sign Polanco. Like, there is a way they can do both, where Polanco's the DH, he comes in and plays second base at points, and Donovan can play third, and then when you need Donovan to slide over to second, he could do that. I mean, Donovan hasn't played as much third base in the last couple years, but could do it. There's a way to do it.
What about the other name we were talking about? This would be Ketel Marte.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to wrap up on Donovan before getting to Ketel.
So I would then actually before we get to Ketel Marte. So then it sounds like the pitching prospect, because the Cardinals need starting pitching. The prospect you and I would settle on to give up for Brendan Donovan would be Jurangelo St. Based on what we heard, I don't think the Cardinals would have any interest in acquiring Jurangelo St. for Brendan Donovan.
I think they just feel like they're selling too low on the guy. And again, if the industry tells the Cardinals that what they are asking for will not be met in terms of a price, then that's how prices start to come down. But here sitting at the winter meetings, it doesn't sound like prospects are getting traded for Brendan Donovan. It sounds like the Cardinals want big league pieces. And by the way, I would take this note too. The Cardinals director of pitching used to work for the Mariners. It's a guy by the name of Matt Pierpont. So if the Cardinals are targeting a starting pitcher, I'm going to guess it's somebody that he likes. And I'm going to guess it's somebody that he has interest in bringing into the Cardinals organization.
Right. Now, Ketel Marte. As high as the Brendan Donovan suggested trade package was, there is a higher trade package for Ketel Marte, as you would know. In these direct words, it would take a, quote, Juan Soto level package right now to acquire Ketel Marte.
Again, from people we talk to, that's our understanding. So this idea of packaging some prospects and some really good prospects for Ketel, you're not even close to meeting what the Diamondbacks are seemingly asking for, which makes sense because, again, about the whole leverage thing. I mean, this is their golden ticket right here. If you are trying to seriously set your franchise into a spot where you are young and exciting and good for the foreseeable future, because the Diamondbacks are not rebuilding. They want to stay young and they want to get club control, but they're not rebuilding. So if they're going to trade Ketel Marte, they want young, controllable big league pieces back. So when you hear that, and then you hear things like Juan Soto trade, that means that they are looking for something like a Mariners starting pitcher, one of their top prospects, or maybe probably two of their top prospects, and then maybe
potentially a Mariners young infielder, Cole Young.
So
especially if you're trading Ketel Marte, Cole Young would need a second baseman.
So that makes it sound like it would be something like Kirby, Cole Young, one of their top prospects. I mean, who do you want to call it?
All right, Cade Anderson, because they need starting pitchers.
Right, and if Sloan is their most untouchable guy, like if the Mariners value Sloan as the number one pitcher in the org, let's say they do, then it becomes Kirby, Cade Anderson, Cole Young, and maybe a contributor on top of that has some control. That's a lot,
Are the Mariners better if they do that trade? You're talking about subtracting one of your starting pitchers, your projected everyday second baseman, and someone, let's say it's Dom Canzone gets traded back to the Diamondbacks in this deal. That's three regular contributors.
Or let's even call it Luke Raley, because say the Mariners want to keep Canzone because he played well at the end of the year.
That's three regular contributors still. If the Mariners are not going to go acquire another outfielder, those are three people who will play a decent role on the Mariners next year, all the way up to a great role.
Ketel is the best second baseman in baseball.
He's really good. Are you better, though? Are you better not having Kirby pitching every fifth day, not having Luke Raley to supplement? And is like the gap between Cole Young and Ketel that big to be worth that?
Look, it's a lot. And I got to be honest, when I hear Juan Soto trade for a guy that is in his 30s, and look, the contract
and it's not Juan Soto.
No, he's not Juan Soto. He's been a top 10 hitter in the sport the last 2 years by WRC+. Like, let's not sell him short. But no, he's not Juan Soto as a hitter. And again, he's in his 30s. There are a little bit of questions about what he's like in the clubhouse, right? That came out last summer.
Mm-hmm. And Juan Soto was 23 when he got traded?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a world of difference. We're talking nearly a decade difference.
In age,
So to expect that kind of return is crazy. This contract is doing so much work. Ketel's a great baseball player. This contract Ketel Marte is on is doing so much more work to drive up his price for the Diamondbacks because they know he is the best bang for your buck you have in Major League Baseball for how much you're paying somebody. That's not on a pre-arb contract.
So as a result, they're trying to ask for the world.
So please let us know in the comments, guys, if we throw a suggested trade package of either Bryce Miller, George Kirby, Cole Young, Cade Anderson, and Luke Raley for Ketel Marte.
Can we make something clear? It's not Miller and Kirby. It'd be Miller or Kirby.
Yeah. Obviously not if you trade both of them. You have to trade both of them. But yes, one of them, Cade Anderson, Luke Raley, Cole Young. Would you do that? Right this second for the Mariners, knowing there are still other options out there for you to go upgrade, a.k.a. Brendan Donovan or other free agents, I cannot see that. I can't do it.
So look at it like this before we wrap this pod up. You asked, are the Mariners better if they give up all of that for Ketel Marte? Even look at it like this. Are the Mariners, how much better are the Mariners giving all of that up for Ketel Marte or keeping all those aforementioned pieces and re-signing Jorge Polanco?
Signing Jorge Polanco.
Yeah.
In 2026, they are better. I can't promise the years after that because Jorge's health hasn't been perfect, and he's getting up there in age, and he's already mostly going to be DH if you sign him, which would hamper your roster, and you can also have to pay him roughly $15 million a year. That being said, in 2026, which, to hold myself accountable, I'm in a moment where I care about next year and next year only. So, in that case, that requires signing Jorge Polanco, not trading for Ketel Marte. If one of those pieces gets knocked off this hypothetical Ketel Marte deal, let's say it's Kirby, Kirby, Cole Young, Luke Raley alone. They take Cade Anderson out because Cade's eventually going to take Kirby's spot in the rotation that they've now cleared. How about that?
I think then you have to listen a little bit more because in that scenario, look, you're going to have to fill a starter's role in 2026, but you are adding a superstar second baseman. And again, we've talked about the whole Kirby thing. Is he going to sign an extension? Is that big jump going to happen for him? We're still waiting on both of those things. And you're going to have to, if you're not going to sign Kirby long-term, you're probably going to have to trade him either this winter or next winter if you want to maximize the value.
Otherwise, you're going to get back a fraction of the cost of what Corbin Burns was traded for, which was Joey Ortiz and DL Hall.
Which isn't that much. I mean, they were prospects, but it's not like, didn't move the needle of the Brewers roster all that much.
Unless the Mariners are going to spend money like the Mets, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, they're going to have to make some trades that look bad optically. And to be fair, the Mariners have made plenty of trades that look bad optically. So, they've already done this before. But it's just a bullet you're going to have to bite when you have your pitching plan works out so well that you have this problem, which kind of is a problem, kind of is a benefit, that you have 4 young starters who clocks almost line up simultaneously, all pitching in your rotation at the same time, and all are good, so all are going to get paid by somebody, and you have to make the decision on who to pay. The only team that could really afford to do this and pay all of them are the Dodgers. The Mariners would have to invest nearly $100 million in their rotation to keep all of these guys. And they're not going to do that because if they're going to keep their budget at about $175-ish million, there's just not room for that.
No, there's not. Yeah. Look, I mean, according to fans, you're talking about bad optic trades. According to fans in our comments, Harry Ford was a terrible optics trade.
There were suggestions Jerry should get fired for that trade.
They traded SGA. If you could listen to our comments.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Happy offseason, Lyle. This trade was really like a welcome to the offseason. Yeah. It really was.
Because you get all the discourse, right?
Yeah.
You get all of the commenters and you get all the reactions and you get I know people were attached to Harry Ford, man, but I think it's going to be okay.
Harry Ford could have been better than, let's say the Mariners re-signed Mitch Garver. Harry Ford could have been better than Mitch Garver, technically, but how much better is a better backup catcher making you?
Yeah,
agreed. Like one inning swing throughout a year.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Agreed. Now I'll say this as we start to wrap up the pod. We'll record again on Tuesday at some point. So we'll have basically 2 full days of us being here at the winter meetings, talking to people, trying to gather information. Hopefully some moves will go down at some point in the next couple days. That's always fun. And when we record again on Wednesday, we'll bring you everything we've got. If we learn things and we talk to people, we'll tell you right here. So
it's been fun so far, dog. This is a beautiful hotel that we could not yet afford. Soon we'll be able to afford. A lot of great people out here. The weather was not great when we got in, but hopefully it's better the next couple of days. And hopefully we learn a lot, and hopefully we get another splash here for the Mariners while everyone is under the same roof at the same time.
Yeah, and with that, learn a lot and get a chance to talk to all you guys about it. So I think that just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to listen to the full form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods. If you do, make sure to download these episodes. Please go rate and review 5 stars. It really does help. Same idea over on YouTube. Like, comment, please hit subscribe. Then you'll know whenever we go live, whenever we're posting content. Hey, you'll know when we post our Wednesday podcast episode. And we'll have more to tell you about from here at the winter meetings. So again, go hit subscribe on YouTube. You can go check us out on our website, marinelayerpod.com. All our merch is there. Patreon's there. And then you can follow us all across social media at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.